Hospital or Clapham. It says that he is descended from Hampshire smugglers and Sussex horse dealers on his father's side and Sussex aristocracy on his mother's side.
Just briefly, and while we're at this stage in the film, and we're talking about my family past, let me tell you a rather interesting little tale about my mother. When she was about 12 years old, they lived in Burwash in Sussex, which is where Kipling lived, at a lovely big house down in the valley called Bateman's. She'd been told about Kipling being a great man, a big man in the world, and so as a child she built up this image of this big important person. And one day Kipling was walking up the hill, up School Hill to Burwash, and she was introduced to Rudyard Kipling herself. Well, obviously she was expecting this great man, and unfortunately Kipling was quite a small man in stature. And I think it was a case of the pen is mightier than the man in this case, because he was very disappointed and told us this later on. But there we are, a wonderful meeting for her, and something she could tell us later on, but not quite what she expected.
So he's travelled very widely, has many varied skills and interests beyond working in a range of art. I'm sure he'll teach us a lot this afternoon, so please give him a job.
I know you've got me on camera here. There's a camera up at the back, and I'm going to bring that forward as well. I've left some cards here, some cards at the back. There's a box of little sponge rollers at the back as well, because I think we're going to find these very interesting during the day. I'm going to show you the paintings that are done with them. It's such a rapid way of working, and you get far more detail than you think with acrylics and so on. I have been using a watercolours effect as well. So what I'm going to do today is not just the one painting. I'm going to spend the first 15-20 minutes showing you a plethora of different ways of working to really get you enthusiastic and excited, to get your taste buds going. Remember, all we're dealing with is paper and canvas. Let's not worry about wasting it. Let's not worry about, once you start panicking. Now, I've had lots of adventures in life, I still am, and I had a wee girl last night asking me if I'd go and be on a panel of judges to judge some portraits in France in 2 weeks' time. I'm back over there. Just because I'm up here and I'm experienced and painter doesn't mean to say I'm not nervous, or even when I start. Just because you feel like throwing your canvases over your shoulders at times doesn't mean to say I don't either. There's lots of things we're going to go through, so lots of ideas here today. I'm going to run through watercolour, pastels, soft pastels, water and pastel, acrylics, everybody acrylics. I know you've had some superb lecturers here, and I'm not up against it, including one or two that I've got a lot of admiration for myself. Just because I'm a professional again doesn't mean to say that I've stopped learning. The more we learn, the more we realise we don't know. And that's what I was saying about adventure. In your painting scenarios, there can be no, that's it, back of the room. There can be no adventure without risk, can there? Otherwise it's not an adventure. So we're going to have adventures with paint, and we're going to take risks. You're going to make a mess. But who's going to worry if we all do it? I'm sure there's nobody narrow-minded enough here to turn to the other person and say, they wouldn't do that, you'd be more sensitive, wouldn't you? So I'm going to show you, I'm going to show you lots of ways of working I think you can go away on, and then I'm going to get on with this textural piece. As you can see, we can even use our breakfast on this, from breakfast seals, the whole lot right the way through. And that's one of them completed there, of course, in green. Just have resin on afterwards, but I'm going to go through all of that. And I'm not going to start with those, also I want to finish with those, because that's what I'm going to demonstrate. What I'm going to actually start with are the, and most of my work is out in galleries now, so I've got to start with pieces that have been mounted. My mount cutter is now over in France. So tons of little things gimmicks to give you and tips to give you. So by all means, at any time, ask me questions about any area of art you want, and I'll try and help out if I can. And I'll throw in as many tips as I can, from reusing pastels to. First of all, is just show you a couple of the recent watercolour demonstrations. Now, I've left my cards, as I say, at the back, and here's, I'll start with these watercolours then, and the pastels, then I'm going to work onto the roller work, and then through from there. So that's so much to do, so much to, if you've got your notes, you can drop 3 times as you go along. Right, let's start with the loose watercolour. The big brush work, again, using one of my French scenes again. All of these works here, every single one of them are demonstrated on the side. So you can actually see any one being painted right the way through. As I will be filming this, and you later will be up on that side too. Obviously, to those, there's an exception to the rule. For instance, most of you in a watercolour are used to painting your looser watercolour and working through to detail at the end, aren't you? wonderful artist in New Zealand. Taught me a way of painting the salient points first. And just look at one of those, very, very loose again, where you paint the salient points such as the figures and details like this first of all, and then you paint the loose work around it afterwards. So both very loose pictures those, yeah? And painted tightly and then very loosely around it. So there's exceptions to every rule, isn't there? There's a rule about baking the cake that in your landscapes you want to work from warm to cool because of the atmosphere, hence the Mediterranean light, because there's less water droplets in the air, the light is clearer, sharper, you can see. Going back then to more traditional ways and working in more detail, the use of masking fluid here to mask up, the use of rake brushes. You've not heard of rake brushes? No, again, that's my watercolour set. But again, all of this is on my YouTube site, so you can go there and see the use of the rake brushes, which are literally a rake and brushed. They're fine, like a fan almost. Great for doing textures and lines, for grasses and things. The oval mop is used for most of it. Exploring the textures, this is a demo piece again I did for YouTube, where I'm again exploring those different textures. Here I've used some white gouache for speckling the snow. Remember that with snow, when you've got the snow coming down over the light, you get darker speckles. And when it's dark, you get lighter speckles, so you reverse your snow speckles. The techniques here of using, again, the little fine rake brushes for doing the fur animals. Very, very useful, these rake brushes. You can get them very fine as well as much. One little thing to draw with is a sharpened piece of stick in Indian ink. Not a pen, just a piece of ordinary stick, but don't take a piece with pith in it because you've got a hole. You want a piece of 1/4 inch dowel or something, and it's this nice little, you can draw a 6 or 7 foot line with just one dip with the stick into the ink. And brushes are useful as the Chinese and Japanese use as well. What I wanted to show you is this one first of all. Snow scene. If you look so you look at my channel, all of these are up there with the students doing them. Chinagraph pencil, black Chinagraph pencil. It's semi-waterproof, it doesn't smudge, so you do your drawing first with an ordinary pencil, so you've got it right. Go in heavily with the black Chinagraph. The watercolour will just go across the black pencil. Go very heavily with the watercolour because you've got to put light pastels over the top. You get rid of all of the white paper and the whites and the lights go back in the soft pastel. Okay? So watercolour gives that lovely luminosity and brightness of colour. Acrylic inks are also wonderful. I haven't got them with me, but I've used acrylic inks for the same method in gardenscapes to get that really vibrant colour of flowers. So FW acrylic inks, underpainting, wet into wet, and then tighten it up, pull it together and bite in with your pastels to get some wonderful effects with those acrylic inks or watercolour. And then we build up the pastels afterwards with light colours. So we're working from our darks gradually outwards to our lightest colours in this case. Traditional pastel. This is fun, isn't it? Now we're on to ordinary pastel paper, and this is the old English block and blending method. Remember that pastel works by the little particles of pigment reflecting light. So if we spray them, I never use fixative anymore, if we spray them or we rub them, they go dead. So the old English block and blend method is to put all of our colour in, block all the paper out, blend it so it's dead, to give the underpainting. Yeah. Oh, just one more thing about the watercolour one there. When you use pastel with water, as I'll show you in a moment, pastel is fixed. Pastel is like watercolour, it is pigment bound together with gum arabic. So it will wet down with water. You can actually paint with it just as I showed you something, just like water. This one's done that way. This is then just blocked and blended. And watercolour paper, and these are done on, this one's done on hot press. A lot of this work is done on hot press. This snow one was done on knot. If you know your watercolour papers, you've got rough, you've got knot in the middle, and then you've got the hot press. Knot is also cold press. Smooth surface then for more detailed work. And these have been underpainted with the pastel. So I will put pastel on, then use the brush, not the water first usually. And then it's an incredible thing to watch. And again, it's something I'd love to show you sometime, but we'll see what you want. But you can see it on the channel. You can actually move the paint around, the pastel around, like water, like oils. When you've got it wet with your fingers, you can actually move it and paint with it.
These are oil pastels?
This is just ordinary soft pastel, but you must have soft pastels, not the cheap ones. The softer they are, the better the quality, and the more they move with water. They melt down with the water. Back on that then to the old traditional method here. So that's water and pastel, and then the nice bright colours at the end. Nice big one again, demonstrating again the unison pastels. But this is the block and blend method. You see the much softer effects we can get. The whole series of my secret scenes. And I work up very, very loosely with the sponge roller. And it's surprising just how much detail you can get with the sponge roller. You see, by using an edge, you can paint lines, or you can paint around things, or you can just dab them, or you can rub the sponge roller. And here's a landscape done with the same. This was a landscape done for an art society within a couple of hours at Skegness. And all of that background is worked up by crisscrossing and overlaying. And of course you can get glazing effects. You can see how one colour is glazed across another by just going with the sponge light. So you can press harder and get a heavier mark, or you can press lightly and let one colour glaze another. The sky would be 3 or 4 different colours glazed over each other to get that nice vibrance and light. However complicated the picture is, have a fairly good drawing. That is important in a figurative work. Drawing and composition even comes into abstract. Have a fairly good tight figurative drawing. Not so tight you've got over detail, but the outlines and the positions and the shapes are good. You can work loosely within a tight drawing. But if you try and work loosely within a bad drawing, unless you're very good, it's going to get even worse. You exaggerate the problems. So have a fairly good drawing, and then simply put the right colours in the right places, in the right shapes, relevant one to another. So you've got your shapes already with the drawing. You can just, if you're good, if you just work the colours out. So right colours, right shapes, right places. But the important one is relevant one to another. Don't try and finish one bit of painting at that time. That colour goes here. If you put it on your brush, put it over there. That colour goes here. If you put it on your brush, it's in 2 other places, put it there. Don't waste your paint on your brush. Keep working all over. There are going to be exceptions to the rule. The techniques might bind you up a bit. For instance, watercolour. If you're painting smooth water, the trick is to paint the depth of the water first, to do the verticals and the depth first. Everybody starts painting across. No. Paint the depth. Now that's the problem when you've got watercolour, isn't it? Because you've got to leave some dry brushwork for your water or something. You've got to think that one out. But generally speaking, especially in an opaque paint, get your verticals and your shadows and your reflections and the depth of the water first, and then touch the surface horizontally afterward. You get that wonderful mirrored effect, okay? This is what I've been doing a bit there, you see? I've got the basics in, and then I put the textures and the surfaces on afterward, because you've had Hashim here, haven't you?
Yes.
Wonderful artist, I love his work. But of course, you know, as I say, we all pick up all the time. I love his brightness of work, so I started exploring, playing with the heavy bodies, and this is my homage to him. But you know, I've been using the thinner acrylics and haven't realised just how good the heavy bodies were. We've got a problem now in that one of the biggest art companies in the country is just closing down, as you might know, and being bought on by an Italian company. So many of the acrylic, for instance, you can't get hold of it now. You can get the old stock, but you can't get new stock, so we've got to wait for that to get coloured grounds. But keep exploring. I like to use painting knives as well, and I'm going to go on to using some painting knife ones here as well in a moment. These are my most recent pieces. I did 3 French ones. I'm going to show you texture one in a minute. Now, again, it's horses for courses. Here I've taken, done the drawing on white canvases, and then taken a black marker pen. Because I didn't use a blue ground and then draw a light colour over the top. I'd done my drawings on the canvas. I can't see it. With a black marker pen, then you can use the roller. I've just been using the sponge roller, so all the background and the sky in that, the entire sky in that is done with the, I've got it one way, haven't I? The sky in this one, the left, my right hand one, is done with the sponge roller entirely. No brushes in that. Painting knives. This is one of my bugbears. I hate the word media. It's not. Paint is a medium. Media is the press. Why do people say these days media? So I'm painting in these mediums, okay? And a painting knife is a totally different thing to a palette knife. I've got one here. I should have one here. But I use all sorts, and then I use a cement. I'm going to show you some in a minute. We're done with a cement trowel that big. Yeah, so really, have fun. No, that is a painting knife. You see the angle of that. Your fingers don't touch. Now, painting knife one. This is one where I used a great big trowel. The colours, it's more the colour. Look at the texture I'm getting there. You can get the texture by pushing against and lifting off. I've used a sponge roller across that one to get that texture as well. So I'm using everything at once. I put the texturing on here earlier on. In fact, with this one, I've actually mixed the texture with the paint and put it on, because the PVA, the acrylic paint will hold it together. And I added some PVA glue. That one was made first. This is the question we're going to move on to the textures more now. So the texturing in this is done by ordinary interior household filler, smooth filler. Got my hands away, but my fingers are a bit worn now. I wouldn't need one of these. This is actually done in France. I bought it especially for you because I knew I was going to do it, so I bought it, did it, and then I bought it over. Won't make any difference, but and that's done with my fingers. And the smooth filler is mixed with PVA glue, about a good handful for that much, but enough PVA glue to give it plasticity and to stick it on. It doesn't crack off. And it will go onto a canvas just the same, look. It doesn't have to be on a hard board. MDF is cheaper than canvases to buy. So depending on the thickness, you don't want those bendy ones, but to paint oils or acrylics on the thin MDF is okay. Like the old hardboard you used to use, it's MDF these days. This is a thicker duty MDF, which is what this is. And it will last far longer than a canvas and is far more durable. It's just nice to have a canvas that's lighter to carry, but if you want to do this sort of work, then MDF is worth thinking about because it's no movement at all. And then on this one, to finish it off, because I have a lot of trouble with it sinking, I've used black emulsion. You can use any deep colour you wanted to. And we've got to, when we do this, we're going to see how we reverse the light to dark and dark to light. I've used a coat of watered down, not too thin, though quite thick, PVA glue over the top. And look how the blacks come out. Now that's a lovely thing to do. If you want to do stained glass windows with the kids or anything else, using it with tissue is gorgeous.
You have to prime, did you prime the
Yeah.
under? Just straight on.
Yeah, same with these. Cheaper canvases, I often give the cheaper canvases a priming anyway because they're so dry surfaced and heavy surfaced. But no, with this board, no, just straight on with that glue and it absorbs under the surface. But do make sure that you do paste it on really well when you put it on. And that's one reason you put the glue in, because the glue makes the powder. And at the end I should be able to get this sort of effect even without the varnish. The varnish comes from a company called Elichem, E-L-I-Chem, Elichem. They produce this wonderful plastic coat, resin, which you can pour onto your works, and now you can get all sorts of wonderful reactive colours to go with it. You can get effects to make marbling or metal shining, or there's lovely things you can add to it to make works of art in themselves without even doing anything. So you can add to that. But they've brought a new resin out now which is about a third down on the price, and it dries even quickly. This used to take 12 hours to dry, but there's a new one out now which is cheaper, slightly thinner, and dries even quicker. Right, you've asked me to do today a sunset. That was the request. So that's what I'm going to do. Now, cheap stay wet palettes. The commercial ones are quite a price. So, small or larger sandwich boxes. Just a couple of layers of paper towel, finishing with a piece of greaseproof paper or tracing paper, and you're away. I don't even use the tracing paper, but if you're going to mix in there, it gets furry if you don't use tracing paper. This is a nice big box, but there's a heavy duty ones, but I keep the smaller ones, just lifts off, and there we are. There's the heavy duty. They, heavy body. The thinner ones can run a bit, so if it's in a car, just be careful. If you're travelling somewhere, not to tilt it, with all your paints come sliding down into one mess. As for a palette, I use many different things of palettes, but as I might be using the rollers today, I've got one of my bigger ones. Brushes, as I say, I've got mainly my filberts here. Now normally on something like this, I would work straight in with a brush. But I know you haven't seen these rollers in use, so I think you might like to see that today as my start off, yeah? So we'll have a go with the sky. Now, we don't want to totally paint everything out, not really. We want to leave some of this texturing showing because that's part of it, isn't it? But we could do that by putting a dark colour on and letting a light colour come over top afterwards. I've got to work in the reverses, so if I want light tops on the reeds and things, then it needs to be dark in the reeds. But if I want to have dark over light, like here, then I've got to paint those in first. So I've got to go backwards and forwards a bit. I'm not going to be able to keep all of this black, unless I paint that in and then take a wet sponge and clean off the surface. That would do it, wouldn't it? But normally I just go back over and scumble over the surface with a brush. For this job, you don't want expensive brushes. So first time I would say go and buy the cheap hog hair ones or ones you buy in the market. You can use those, it's great for this kind of work. You're going to ruin them. So don't use decent brushes on this. It's okay for up here, it's not so bad for up there. I would normally start off with the sky with something like that, an ordinary household brush for this sort of job. Just really whack into there. But let's just see what the roller will do. Now, with the sponge rollers, we don't have to keep washing it. Providing we're working our lighter colours through, what I am going to do is wet my inside as well as the outside. I did ask for whiskey, but there's no whiskey. Just damp the roller a bit at first. When you wash it, be careful, because when you go and wash your roller, it's full of water. Do dry it out with a paper or a towel later, because you can come back and you'll dribble everywhere. So just damp it to get it started. Use a larger brush just to get going. I want to paint on these various blues. The skies usually work from warmer here to going cooler in the background. And then we have a sunset here, so we're going to get some reverses going on. And there'll be a warmer blue up here and a more turquoise blue here. I'm going to work that right the way through and then come back with my lights over the top, which is something we can do with, obviously, a matte paint, which you can't do with a transparent paint. Don't want too much water, just a little bit to get going. I'm going to start with, I find I'm going to start in the middle here and work with my lighter blues. I do love these turquoises. I'm going to work up a very light yellow turquoise first of all. Get this going, not too much water. Just a little touch of lemon yellow. You've got your camera all right, you can see from there. So it's one colour compared to another. You know, one dot of colour can change your entire painting. And do remember that about your signatures. If your signature is badly done and in the wrong colour, it's part of your painting, for heaven's sakes. You've got painting a whacking red signature, I can't paint anything, there's no room for it, but you've got painting a signature in the wrong place or in the wrong colour, it changes the whole painting. So choose your signature colour well, to where you're going to place it as well. If I put a bit more yellow in there, it's going to seem even more turquoise than the turquoise did. So I put a little bit of lemon yellow in. And just test that out. Look at that lovely colour and the texture you can get with a brush. This is where I'd normally work up. I just take the brush and I would work up into that, leaving a little bit of texture like that. Let's take my roller. Don't take a bit of getting going, just a bit to get the roller going. I usually just work the roller through the brush like this, and then I can work with the top like that into it or across it. I can use it lightly, look, or I can use it more heavily. Get my picture there. Let's start there. Yeah, so that's coming right through here. I'm going to deliberately leave quite a bit of dark showing, otherwise it might look as if it's two different paintings altogether, because I want the dark showing. Okay, we'll let that dry for just a couple of seconds. Now, oil paints, you need to let it dry for weeks, really, and sometimes months, depending how thick the paint is. But I have found that with acrylics, because you're not painting so thickly, we can generally, especially with a water-based varnish like this, wherever it's gone. Who's got my varnish? Come on, go on, you lot. No, I keep half-inching it. Who's it? Yeah, point to the. That's something I'm just going to go wash this before it dries. Otherwise, I'm going to.
I'll see it later.
There's all sorts of varnishes in the
I'll see
market.
it later.
I mean, this one. Watch it though, because it does tend to trickle everywhere, especially doing it vertically. Usually lay them flat, but in this case, I mean, just give it. Look at that gloss coming out. Look. Now, hopefully, because I've used the PVA glue, I won't need to use many coats of this. Look along it. Let it really trickle. So the varnish, the resin would look really nice, but thank you. Lovely, well done. Look along, see which areas are sinking. Voila!
Different, doesn't it?
Quick demo on textures for you. Yeah? So, I've got you all now. We've given you a demo which gives you lots of new and interesting ideas, I hope. And you can always email me because my email address is on my website. So if you want to send me any pictures you do, for me to chat about, by all means do. I have a students' gallery as well, which means that any work that anybody does that's affected by mine can have their work up on my website if they want as well. So, maybe we'll see you again. The holidays in France, say a whole week, 3 people. I don't charge any more for one as I do for 3, as in individually. You don't get 3. As I say, I've got 3 double bedrooms, 1 ensuite, the other 2 share a bathroom, lovely gardens. I pick you up, I drop you off, I take you around, do everything, any mediums, whatever you want. The days set up as you want, social events, looking around the areas.
Our programme says March the 21st, Peter Wood, atmospheric sunset in acrylics. I think that must be the understatement of the year. A tip a minute doesn't come close to describing what we've had this afternoon. So thank you very, very much.
My pleasure.
I really hope you come again.
Lovely, well, I'd love to, yes. Well, I'm back after my trip down there to do the demo, which was a lovely time. Had a great time. Thank you very much for inviting me, guys. I think we all gained a lot from it. I get such a buzz from having a good demo. It makes me feel very useful in life and fulfilled. So, leaving that aside, I brought the picture back and feel it needs a little bit more work. When I'm up close to it like that, and of course standing to one side, I can't see so easily. Here I can get back, and I notice that the actual horizon is at an angle. I've even built it at a slight angle, so I need to try and sort that out. It's not easy because the texturing's actually been done at an angle on that. I hadn't realised when I'd done it, and I need to make it more solid across this angle here. I think the tilt is looking a bit strange. So I need to just work on that and just pull 1 or 2 of the colours out here and there and the texturing here and there, and I think we'll be there on that one. It will be better resined, and it might well be that later on I come in and resin this whole texture, which especially works on the water areas like this, because when the resin pulls into there, it gives that feeling of glass. When I go back to France this time, I've got some spare resin I'm going to bring back, and I've got a couple of pictures I want to resin again, including those flower ones I did earlier. Right, so we'll just get on with this and do a bit more on it then. Before I start, what I also want to show you are these 2 photographs. Same scene, taken within minutes of each other, but it's this business of when you take a photograph of a landscape and you want to paint from them, don't just take it of the one scene, because when you get very lights and darks of the sky and landscape, you'll find that either the darks will overpower or the lights will overpower. So it's better to try and take one of the sky and one of the base of the landscape, and then one of the 2 together. The metering of the camera will then allow you to get the correct metering on the sky, so it's overdone here and about right on there for that, and it's too dark here for me to really see the colours. So I've got some lovely rich colours here that I can use in the sky as compared to these. I can now play with the 2 of these. I might like this better, I might like the lighter colour, but equally I might want to put on some richer colours here. So I'm going to use both of these photographs now to finish off this painting. Okay, I'm going back to one of my older brushes, a nice old filbert here, good old stiff brush to
work up these colours, that much there, so I'm about that much too high there. Try and come across and just mark that. I've got to come down to about there if it's going to be level. A bit more of a glow to it because I can see it more easily now. I'm in daylight as well. Although the light was very good in the hall, I must admit. It's a lovely place for them to have, lovely venue. A nice society, as I say. Well, while we're doing this, if anything goes wrong, we can always go back in with water and get it off again. Quite happy with something. Not going to be too garish, but we've got to get this power of the thing going on. Now, on my darker one, the red actually comes very dark over here, and I quite like that idea, so I'm just going to literally do that. I'm going to bring some deeper reds over to that corner to really give a much stronger red over here. A bit of a worker thing easily, but hopefully we won't with this one. Now, I got distracted then with those colours, so I need to come back and look at the turquoise again, rather than the lighter one, and just linking the two together to make these deep blues come down into here. Go lighter and lighter with it, put more green into it now, and more white, and continue pushing on these colours. I'm going to play these, make this difference between the lighter and the darker photo. Right. This is the area that's not quite working, so we've got to go back to those reds again. So nearly there, I think. So nearly there. I'm still not happy with the warms though. The warms and the pinks and the reds. Not really. Let's see what we can do. It's better. It's taking the risk, it's taking the plunge, it's getting in there and actually making marks, pushing the colours, trying. You might make a mess, equally you might make it work. Now these stronger colours I think are starting to work. There, now that's suddenly brought that to life, by bringing those richer, deeper colours and reds in. That last evening glow. There we are, I think that's got to be about it. So, talking about signing, where am I going to sign that? Probably down here. Not much space left to sign, is there? So let's take one closer look at the texturing. How that works with the colours now. Zoom right in onto it so you can see it right up close. All of this rice and grain and bits of spaghetti and so on work close up. To give us this impressionist effect, this broken colour effect.